Yellowstone National Park is one of the most beautiful places in America. In this park, there are over 200 species of animals living freely, including bison, grizzly bears, gray wolves, elk, and coyotes. But recently, something strange has happened. Many animals have abandoned their homes and left the park, not just in droves, but by the thousands. And it's been happening every single year since 2019. So what's going on? Why are so many animals suddenly leaving the park? And could it be the first sign of the long-awaited Yellowstone super eruption? To start off, let's talk about how we even know that so many animals have been leaving the park in the first place. Well, since 2019, scientists have noticed a drastic decrease in the number of animals caught in the park's wildlife camera traps. Over a 5-year period between 2015 and 2020, researchers captured images of over 18,000 animals in the park. However, in 2019, they only managed to capture images of 8,693 animals. In 2020, it was just 7,462. And in 2021, there were only 6,762 animals captured on camera. All of these are numbers that are more than 50% lower than the average. And it's not just 1 or 2 species that are disappearing either. In fact, dozens of species have all shown up less frequently in the camera trap data, including the ones already mentioned, as well as black bears, mountain goats, mule deer, moose, and much more. Of course, this doesn't mean that the total number of animals in the park has actually decreased by 50%. After all, there's no way of knowing how many animals the cameras didn't catch. What it does show us is that whatever it is that these animals are sensing has affected their behavior, specifically their movement. According to the researchers from Yellowstone National Park, the animals have become increasingly more active during nighttime and less active during daytime. They've also begun to spend far more time in remote areas of the park and are generally avoiding the central regions. When researchers first analyzed this data, they suspected that it had something to do with the increasing temperatures across the world. Maybe the animals were getting chased out of the park by a changing climate, or maybe they were simply migrating further north in search of cooler temperatures. But after a couple of years, it became obvious that this wasn't true. The temperature outside hasn't really changed much at all, so what else could be causing such a mass exodus? Well, according to recent research, the answer could lie beneath the park itself. As you probably already know, Yellowstone is home to the largest supervolcano on the planet. It's wide enough to fit 3 of Washington D.C. S within its enormous caldera, and it's produced some of the most devastating eruptions in Earth's history. Its most recent major eruption occurred 640,000 years ago, and was so powerful that it's estimated to have killed every single living thing within 50 miles of the volcano. While it's been relatively quiet for the last 600,000 years, it's still very much an active volcano, and the United States Geological Survey has detected hundreds of earthquakes near the volcano just in the last couple of years alone. Of course, earthquakes are normal around active volcanoes, but when they begin to swarm an area, it can be a sign of something much more dangerous. In the summer of 2021, Yellowstone experienced a swarm of earthquakes, unlike any other in recorded history. Between June and November, the USGS detected 2,500 earthquakes in the area. While most of these were pretty small, measuring less than 3 on the Richter scale, there were also 26 earthquakes that measured between 3 and 4 on the scale, which was enough to shake buildings and rattle windows. This swarm of earthquakes didn't last for too long, but it got everyone on edge and wondering if Yellowstone might erupt again. And while a super eruption would definitely be disastrous for the entire world, it's not the biggest concern for the animals living inside the park. See, it's not actually the sudden increase in volcanic activity that's causing the animals to flee. Instead, it's the changes in the ground that are happening beneath them. As the magma chamber below the volcano recharges, the land above it begins to slowly bulge upward. This has been happening for decades now, but in the past few years, the rate of uplift has accelerated. Since 2015, some parts of Yellowstone have risen by as much as 7 inches per year. And that may not sound like a lot, but it's enough to cause problems for the animals that live there. According to the researchers, the most likely reason that so many animals have left the park is because their habitats are being destroyed. As the ground beneath them rises and falls, the plants and trees that they depend on for food and shelter are dying, and that's why you see so many of them moving further into the park and becoming nocturnal. It's their way of adapting to these changes and trying to survive. But not everyone is convinced that this is the real reason behind the mysterious animal exodus. Some experts believe that there's something else going on here, something far more sinister. Maybe the animals can sense that the Yellowstone supervolcano is preparing for another massive eruption, and they know that it won't end well for them. Of course, this is pure speculation, and there's no real evidence to support it. But stranger things have happened. Some people even believe that the recent earthquake swarm is a sign that the super eruption is imminent. According to some reports, small towns near Yellowstone have begun to evacuate, fearing that their cities will be wiped off the map. While this is certainly possible, it's highly unlikely. Experts from the USGS have stated that there's no indication that the recent swarm of earthquakes means that a volcanic eruption is imminent. And they've also said that there's no need for people to panic or leave their homes. So, what you have to ask yourself is this: are these animals really fleeing for their lives, or are they just running away from dying habitats? Unfortunately, we don't have the answer. All we can do is keep monitoring the situation and see what happens next. Now, I know that some of you watching this video probably think that a Yellowstone super eruption is imminent and that it'll happen tomorrow. But I'm here to tell you that you shouldn't worry too much. Even if the volcano did erupt, there's a good chance that you wouldn't even feel it. That's because the magma beneath Yellowstone is so incredibly deep that most of the pressure from the eruption would be released hundreds of feet underground. Only a small portion of the pressure would make it to the surface and cause damage. And even then, the explosion wouldn't be nearly as bad as people think. A recent study found that the majority of Yellowstone's past eruptions were much smaller than expected. Most of them were between 1 and 50 cubic kilometers in volume, which is pretty small compared to the massive 2,500 cubic kilometers of the 1980 Mount St. Helens eruption. However, once in a while, the magma chamber would refill and cause a gigantic eruption that was between 100 and 2,000 cubic kilometers in size. These mega eruptions only happened every 20,000 to 40,000 years, though, so we're still safe for now. But of course, that doesn't mean that we should just ignore what's going on at Yellowstone. It's important that we continue to monitor the volcano and take action if anything unusual happens. Because, although the chances of it erupting in our lifetime are slim, it's still a possibility that we can't afford to ignore. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe for more science videos.